What is good, everybody? With everything going on in the economy lately, you might be thinking about moving more and more of your money into gold at the moment. As you may have noticed, investing in gold has been a pretty popular topic over the last few weeks, and really, anytime we've seen an economic downturn or a recession in the past, it's very common that people start turning to gold. But is gold actually a good hedge to protect your money in the event of an economic collapse? What actually gives gold its value? And is gold even worth your time, or should you be looking at the new era of currency, instead putting your money into crypto or digital currency like Bitcoin? Gold has a very interesting history. For over 5,000 years now, gold has been used as a form of currency. Throughout that history and across almost all countries and societies, gold has been universally accepted as a form of payment and a natural metal that has long had value tied to it. The Egyptians wanted gold, the Greeks wanted gold, the Romans wanted gold. Gold was even the cause of the expansion of our country throughout the 1800s, as many families packed up to head west to join the gold rush. Up until World War II, most countries across the world followed the gold standard. But in 1944, the Bretton Woods Agreement came into play and it established a new global monetary system. The US held 2/3 of the world's supply of gold, so as a result, all major currencies across the world linked to the dollar, with the dollar in turn linking to gold and being used as a substitute for that gold. This new monetary system replaced the gold standard with the US dollar as the global currency. And by doing so, it established America as the dominant power in the world economy. Ultimately, the Bretton Woods Agreement fell apart because the US started running all kinds of deficits and printing more money than could be backed by gold. And this led to the gold standard officially ending in 1971. Now, this history is important for setting the stage on what the future may hold for gold, but let's get down to brass tacks and talk about why people are actually investing in gold and why it seems like a good place to put your money at the moment. The United States is still the leading currency reserve, but that may soon be changing, and that's why gold is looking more and more favorable to people right now. See, the US dollar was supposed to be printed in relation to how much gold could back it. But as I mentioned, the central government started printing money continuously, pumping more and more money into circulation while the amount of gold reserves remained constant. This turned the US dollar into what's known as a fiat currency, a currency that has really no value behind it. It only holds value as long as people believe in it and trust it. In other words, the value of our money is purely backed by the good word of our government. And as the national deficit climbs, as the Fed gives out trillions of dollars in the form of stimulus checks, as we move into a recession, the amount of trust in the US dollar starts to drop. This is where gold comes in as a promising alternative. It seems crazy to think about the US dollar failing and being completely worthless, but it may actually be quite possible. Throughout history, we've seen that the majority of fiat currencies have failed, and of the 775 fiat currencies that have ever existed, only about a quarter of them are still around today. It's been seen that fiat currencies all follow a similar trend. It all starts with paper money getting introduced into an economy, and that money eventually gains trust and supports that economy. But over time, that currency gets overprinted, slowly building inflation and losing value. Eventually, it devalues enough to lead not only to its own collapse, but also that of the economy that it's connected to. Fiat currencies have an average life expectancy of 27 years, but at some point, it's largely believed that all fiat currencies will inevitably fail. It's pretty easy to see the slow devaluation of the US dollar. Our money has lost 95% of its value since the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913. If you look at the purchasing power of our dollar over time, it's been on a pretty steep decline, and our money is becoming more and more worthless because over time, the US dollar is able to buy less and less. And if you're a big Ray Dalio fan like me, which I have a feeling you are, then maybe you've been reading a lot of his articles lately on what he's calling the changing world order, on how the US dollar has run its course and how China will be the new leading economy and the next country to hold the world's leading reserve currency. Basically, this is a bunch of scary shit to think about. So what makes gold so promising? Many people view gold as a hedge for an economic collapse. Gold is seen as a safe place to maintain the value of your money since it's been used for so long and has proven to be a good store of value. If we're talking about physical gold, it's something that's actually tangible and an asset that you possess, not just digital numbers on a computer screen that correlate to how many dollars you have in your bank account. That's why many of the doomsday preppers out there that don't trust banks or the government like gold. What's that old saying? Something like, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. It's kind of similar to why a lot of real estate investors prefer putting their money into properties instead of the stock market, because they're investing in something that they can actually see, touch, feel, taste, smell. In short, history has given gold a power that surpassed that of any other commodity or form of currency on the planet, and that power has never really disappeared. Due to there being a finite amount of gold in existence, it's believed that gold is highly likely to maintain its value since it's tied to scarcity. Regardless of the US dollar failing though, or the economy collapsing, investing in gold has been viewed as a good way to diversify. Gold has a negative correlation with the stock market, and it has a positive correlation with inflation. Both of these in general are true, but I think there's a few misconceptions to point out about investing in gold. Number one, you're not investing in gold. Gold isn't really an investment, at least not one that you're gonna get any real return from. Instead of thinking of it as an investment, it's better to think of it as insurance for your money, or like I mentioned, a store of value. It's unlikely that gold will give you any major returns, so it should really be used as just another way to diversify and keep your money safe over the long term. Looking at any 30-year period, gold hasn't provided a better return than that of the stock market. But this is where gold wins. The purchasing power of gold has remained relatively the same over time, regardless of its purchase price. In other words, the price of gold will change depending on the demand or the value of the US dollar in relation, but ultimately, the value of gold will always stay the same. Number two, numero dos. Gold isn't guaranteed to have value, and it's not guaranteed that it will be any more valuable in the future than it is now. The value of gold is only based on what people are willing to pay for it. It doesn't have any expected real return. Number three, the price of gold can be volatile and it can fluctuate quite a bit. While gold does a good job of maintaining its value, it doesn't mean that its worth in terms of US dollars won't change throughout the course of a day, a week, a month, a decade. And number four, gold is not 100% correlated to the stock market, meaning that just because the stock market is down doesn't mean that gold will be up. The exact correlation between the stock market and the price of gold has been debated, but I did come across one study that found that 83% of the time that stock returns were negative, gold returns were positive. Still a pretty good correlation, but it doesn't mean that stocks and gold can't be down at the same time. Alrighty, still with me here? Last point I want to cover. How do you invest in gold? You can invest in gold through the stock market by investing directly in gold mining companies, or like I recently decided to do, invest in GLD, which is an ETF that tracks the index of gold. But if you're still putting your money into the stock market, that kind of defeats the purpose, right? At least I feel like it does. So the other option is to purchase physical gold, as long as you can store it in a safe place. But I want to raise the question, is gold even worth investing in at all? I mean, I've never been big on cryptocurrency, but looking towards the future and where we're heading, it might make more sense to put money into something like Bitcoin instead. Let me know your thoughts on that one. All right, that's it for this one. Until next time, peace.